a lawsuit from one of our dear friends, Mike Davis, the Mary Poppins of disinformation, and a slew of other officials in a disturbing amount of collusion with social media firms to quash critical stories. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready. The Biden White House is being sued for violating the First Amendment. Go.
What's so impressive about this lawsuit from Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt and Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry, along with several doctors, a journalist, Jim Hoff from Gateway Pundit, just everyday Americans, is they're really pushing back against the Biden administration's clearly unconstitutional censorship of Americans under the guise of COVID misinformation and disinformation. And what this lawsuit clearly lays out is this was a government-wide enterprise across the Biden administration, across many departments and agencies, and it's clearly illegal under the First Amendment what they have done. They are colluding with these big tech monopolists to Google, Facebook, Twitter. They're colluding with these big tech platforms to censor Americans. And the reason these big tech platforms are doing it is they have Section 230 immunity, this tremendous benefit from the federal government where they cannot get sued for what people post on their platforms. And the government threatens their Section 230 immunity and threatens their antitrust amnesty if they don't do the government's censorship. They don't do the government's bidding. And this is a clear First Amendment violation, and it's very good that the Louisiana and the Missouri state attorneys general have brought this lawsuit.
Okay, so what is going on here? Republican attorney generals from Louisiana and Missouri are accusing the Biden administration of having worked hand and glove with social media giants to censor stories that negatively reflect on the White House. Throughout this case, we have uncovered disturbing amounts of collusion between big tech and the government, Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry said in a statement. This egregious attack on the First Amendment will be met with an equally full-hearted defense of the rights of the American people. This, according to the Daily Mail. The 164-page lawsuit was filed late last week, but the update Monday filing indicates that Republican officials are widening their legal efforts to target 47 more government departments, agencies, and officials, in addition to 20 defendants. This may be the largest lawsuit in the free people's history of America. So what is happening is, as you have seen in bombshell leak after bombshell leak, the federal government is going to tech companies and saying, you got to censor this guy. You got to censor this guy. Benny, his show is too popular. Alex Berenson, he's doing too many Tucker hits. You got to censor these guys. Alex Berenson literally sued Twitter and was able to uncover Jen Psaki and the entire press team of the White House demanding that Twitter censor this journalist. Alex Berenson worked at the New York Times. So the federal government is not, Joe Biden puts his hand in the Bible, right? And then swears to uphold the Constitution. You are violating your oath of office. You should be impeached. This is why we have the impeachment process. They're violating the first and foremost amendment in this country, which is that you have the right to say what you believe and to believe what you believe. And the government's sole job is to protect your right to believe those things and to say those things. This is the government acting directly antithetical to the First Amendment. We hope that they go down in total flames. God bless Eric Schmidt and Landry from Missouri and Louisiana, respectively. They accuse the 46 defendants of exercising a power imbalance against social media companies by lavishing them with certain benefits, threatening to take them away if the tech executives did not comply with their censorship requests. Largest bombshell lawsuit in American history, and possibly the most consequential constitutional lawsuit in American history. Godspeed, ladies and gentlemen. The Supreme Court dropping another bomb on the Biden regime in a huge victory for Republicans. Yesterday, they back Pennsylvania ballot case. Supreme Court is backing Republicans in Pennsylvania, the all-important state. Got a couple vegetables running for office there, and let's hope that they have a free and fair election. If so, I just don't know how you could possibly vote for John Fetterman, especially after watching these videos. It is true abuse. What is happening? It's not abuse at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court having a very rational decision here. The Supreme Court on Tuesday sided with the unsuccessful Republican candidate for a judgeship in Pennsylvania and threw out a lower court's ruling that allowed the counting of mail-in ballots in the race that had sought to exclude because voters neglected to write a date on them. The justices vacated the ruling by the Philadelphia-based Third U.S. Court of Appeals as requested by David Ritter, who lost his 2021 bid for a spot on the Lehigh County Court of Common Pleas to a Democrat rival by 5 votes after 257 absentee ballots without a date notations were counted. The High Court's actions mean that the Third Circuit's ruling cannot be used as a precedent in the 3 states covered by this regional federal appellate court, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, to allow the counting of ballots with minor flaws such as voters failing to fill in the date. Vacating the ruling does not change Ritter's loss in the race. The Third Circuit had ruled that invalidating the undated ballots would violate the provision of the landmark Civil Rights Act, blah, blah, blah. So here's what happens. Inside of states like Pennsylvania, whenever there's a close race, suddenly masses of ballots, batches of ballots get found days after the election. That's what goes on. This is the scheme. This is the game. Okay? So suddenly these ballots just appear out of nowhere. The ballot fairy drops them off. The ballots only vote one way. They aren't dated. They aren't marked. There are no addresses on them. No one knows where the ballot comes from. Nobody's sure which tables the ballots get pulled out from under. But here they are, nonetheless. Magic. Magic. And then the Democrat wins. So there you go. So what the Supreme Court is saying is, no, that's not how elections work in this country. We're going to put limits on when you can count ballots and what ballots you can count, which is a huge ruling by the Supreme Court. U.S. Supreme Court in June denied Ritter's bid to block the counting of the undated ballots. Conservative Justices Alito, Clarence Thomas, and Neil Gorsuch dissented in that decision. Alito wrote that the Third Circuit could well affect the outcome of the elections this year. Voters go to the poll on November 8th in midterm elections, with Republicans are seeking to seize control of Congress from the Democrats, and we encourage you to vote on Election Day, please. Please vote on Election Day, please. Please vote on Election Day. Patriots, vote on Election Day. Show up at the poll. Do not take the mail-in ballot and shove it in the box. Do not do that. Vote on Election Day. Do not give the machine and the system the capacity to try and do the kind of crap that we have seen time and time again. And we've covered these stories. There are people going to jail for ballot fraud in Arizona. I can't remember the woman's name. She's going to jail. There are people, they've overturned elections in LA for these exact kind of tactics. LA. There are in Pennsylvania, there was a dude that was just caught on voter fraud. We have to talk about this, and we have to talk about the broken systems that allow it. Okay? That allow it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll say this. I am 36 years old. Republicans have gotten their asses beat in my lifetime. I've had to begrudgingly support people like Mitt Romney and John McCain. Not now, but back in the day. They got their asses beat. And the process itself being agreed upon by both sides, it's not that I want the same outcome every time. That's the difference between me and a leftist. The leftist wants the same outcome. Every single time, the leftist just wants to win, regardless of how they won. Republicans and conservatives just want a fair fight. So that's what we're calling for here. And that's what all of these common sense election security measures are across the nation. That's why we're so happy that Ron DeSantis is putting people in jail. Ron DeSantis brought like 30 some odd people who committed election fraud to trial. They're charging 30 some odd people in Florida. They're just getting started. To trial for election fraud. Get ready. Those people are going to jail. And that should be the penalty for messing with an election. We are 27 days out from the midterm election, most important election in our lifetime. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen. We are in for the battle of a lifetime. That's why we are going to be hitting the bricks here and doing everything in our power. We are doing everything in our power to show you the realities before you and what is to come if we allow the Democrats to continue destroying this nation. Everything they touch goes absolutely to hell. So we fight. and we stand up for it because we got kids, baby, and we want to protect this country. We want to protect this nation. Saving America is the only purpose on this show. That is all we do every single day. God, family, country. That's why we do what we do. And that's why we're out. That's why we out here. All right? We're free men and women. We were born that way, and we're going to stay that way. We're going to stay that way, not by retreating, but by standing the watch, by banging the shields, and by saying, no, we're not retreating anymore. In fact, we're going to advance. We're going to take the field from you. And so that's what we do. That's why we fight. And that's why we're very, very optimistic. Because for the first time in my adult life, we actually have a movement of fighters. And it's encouraging, truly. God bless all of you. Have an absolutely incredible day. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show.